Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Candid Conversations. I am just so excited to be here today, and you are in for a treat. I have an amazing guest who I think is really bringing a whole different perspective when it comes to, ultimately, we're going to talk about sleeping kids, but really coming to from a different perspective when it comes to helping kids express themselves through art. So, Jamie Gale, it is so good to have you here. I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but even before that, for those who don't know me, I'm Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown. I'm the founder of Restful Sleep MD and the Restful Sleep Place. And really, our mission is to help individuals, including children and their parents, thrive using sleep as a superpower. And so we come on here weekly and we talk about different strategies. We bring in different experts and we talk about how we can kind of weave in wellness through so many modalities with the ultimate goal of giving you and your child the best sleep of your lives. So we have a whole different experience today, and I'm really excited to have you on, Jamie. So maybe introduce yourself, tell our
Yeah.
friends what you do.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you first for having me. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And what you do is so important. So I'm really honored to be here today. My name is Jamie Gale, and I am a business owner. I live in Wisconsin, and a lot of my work focuses on youth well-being in general. And I really approach that from a lot of different perspectives, but I've been an educator in lots of different spaces for over 20 years, and the way that I've worked with kids has really varied over the years. But one of my main work projects right now is that I am a co-director of a creative arts summer camp. We also now offer creative arts after school enrichment programs. And so that's through a program called Creative Soul Camp. And we take a really multidisciplinary approach to creative arts enrichment. So our programs offer things like art, like you mentioned, and also drama and cooking classes, and then yoga, and then we also have an artsy take on science with some STEAM programming as well. So yeah, we work with kids, mostly elementary school age, some middle school as well. And yeah, so I'm excited to chat with you about that. I also own a kids yoga company, and I'm a host of a youth well-being podcast called In It for Youth. And most importantly, I'm a mom to three kids. I have three teenagers. So yeah,
Oh
that's, I
wow.
think, yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. Tell us how that is going. Three teenagers.
Yeah.
Tell me it gets better.
You know what? Okay, I will tell you that this is the stage that I did fear the most, because I most of my work experience is with kids under the age of 12,
Mm,
and most of my interactions with kids that are older than that have been as staff members of mine. But I will say that, like, I am finding the teenage years to be like the candy of parenting. I'm not all the way through it yet, so I don't want to jinx myself, but I just am finding like it's the reward for all the sleepless
mhm,
nights. And my kids are 17, 15, almost 16, and then 13. So I
mhm.
don't know. I'm finding it to be really wonderful. So there it's like, oh, okay, this is the result of all the hard work.
Oh wow. What's the secret sauce? I'm sorry, but I'm getting a little selfish right here because
Yeah,
we're in
okay.
the thick of it. It's beautiful, but then it gets to be a little bit of a lot sometimes. So
Yeah.
what would you say is one thing?
I think that the biggest thing that I had to shift was that this was not going to go as I imagined it to go.
Mm,
And so right from when they were little, everything just like, I'm an educator. So I felt like, oh, I know what this is going to be like, right? And then I had my own kids, and I wanted to go back and say to all the parents who I had ever been a teacher for, I am so sorry. I was wrong. I was wrong. Um so I think it's that. I think it's really seeing my kids for like who they actually are, instead of like what I thought this was going to be like. And
mm,
I don't know. I remember being my kids' ages so clearly. Like I remember my teenage years, and I just am constantly tapping back into like what it
mm,
felt like to be figuring out my own path, and like constantly being like, okay, when I was their age, what was this like? And what did I need to hear at that age? And how much pushing did I need versus how much freedom, and that kind of thing. So
mm.
I don't have a secret answer. I'm still figuring it out as I go, but so far I will say it's like this is the part where the work we did starts to come together, and we
Mm,
gotta, what do they say? It's like the hardest truth is that we are trying to teach our kids not to need us anymore. And
mm,
so letting them kind of take those steps on their own where they can, and then as long they know I'm here. So
mm.
I don't know. I'll let you know.
Yeah, no, like keep us posted, but that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that. I love your, I love how candid you are about that and the fact that, it's learning and we all just keep learning, right?
Yeah,
Learning
totally.
them and learning ourselves too.
Totally, totally.
So take us back to creative arts. Like
Yeah.
what is that and why is that important? It's important so
Right.
much. You've essentially built a whole business around it and you're doing this to help so many people.
Yeah, so I think the way at least that we approach it is that we really look at there's so many things you can teach kids, we there's so even outside of academics, because that's where I live, is outside of academics as far
Mm,
as my work goes. But there's so many skills that we can teach kids, and there is a need for teaching. There is a use for teaching kids like a specific framework, a
mm,
specific method. But I find that when you give kids the method as the seeds and then let them grow it how they want, that they benefit so much more. So we really, and at least in our program, we really put the creative in the creative arts. So we always tell kids, this is the idea behind the activity. So, art is an easy example, where it's like, sure, here's the general plan for the art project, but put your own spin on it. But even outside of art, the other things that we do, the cooking specialist that we work with, she focuses on healthy food for kids. She teaches them how knife skills and what ingredients go together. But even within that, she allows them to put their own creative spin on things. So whether that's like if she's making a mosaic fruit pizza, let's just say, letting them design that or choosing the ingredients that are going in. Yoga, it's the same. We can teach, there's so many things in yoga we can teach kids, but in order to really make it a creative arts experience for them, we got to let them design the things. We got to let them choose the poses. We got to let them tell us how they think the poses would fit together, and what shapes they think we should make with their body and those types of things. So I really find so that's where it all starts for us, is like, how can we take an idea as a seed and then open opportunity for the kids to put their own creative spin on it.
mm. And so you spoke about food, arts, science. Are there other ways by which we can really get kids to explore their creative side through art?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's, you know, kids very young, we find, sort of get a story of
Mm,
whether they are, quote, good at art.
mm,
And, you know, I don't know exactly. I mean, I was one of them. I was one who thought I was just bad at art. When I was in elementary school, the one time I ever got, quote, artist of the week was when someone else had drawn my picture for me. I had this story that I was not good at art. But I find that, one thing, all of our work with kids is done outside of the formal school day. We're in schools. We meet the kids right at the schools, but we're outside of the school day. And one way that we really find that kids end up taking their creativity further is to offer them these opportunities in a way that doesn't force an evaluation. There's
mm,
no final product that they have to have. It's they get to create a final product, but it's for them. And so I think it's a challenge. Sometimes we have kids, it's like two ends of the spectrum. One where they think it's not going to turn out well,
mm,
and so they don't even want to start. And then on the flip side, you have kids who feel like they will be able to do it really well if you show them exactly how to do it. And so
mm,
we have to kind of nudge their creativity out of both of them in different ways by just offering them sometimes, yeah, nudging them to try it again, sitting with the kids to do it with them, bouncing ideas, taking a moment before we expect them to put let's say the paintbrush to paper, and talking through it with them, giving them an opportunity to sketch their ideas, letting them know that they can have a second chance,
mm,
like, oh, it's okay, you can start over, no problem.
mm,
So those are ways that we get kids to kind of stretch their wings in that way. Yeah. And model it, see, letting them see other kids do it first.
Mhm,
Sometimes you do have kids who just wanna watch first, or
mhm.
our staff, they know that's one of their primary goals is to, like, sit down and do the project themselves. So we as the adults in their lives can model it for them, even if we are, quote, "not a good artist," or not
Mhm.
good at cooking or whatever it is. It's letting them see us give it a try in our own
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. No, that's great. So then what do you do about that child maybe has heard several stories that they're not good at art and they're not necessarily willing to explore this creative side. And I'm sure you've come across kids are now just in the digital age. They're just constantly plugged in that when you say, you know what, let's take a break off of devices for now and just either get bored or look for creative ways to give expression to what's on your inside. And they just seem like they're paralyzed. They don't know, they don't know what to do.
Right.
So
Right.
what would you recommend for that?
Yeah, so a couple things come to mind. One is that, as the adults and we have the ease of being a program that their parents have signed them up for. And so we're able to say, yeah, in our setting, we're not using devices.
Mm,
However, so we do create those boundaries. And I do believe that the adults in kids' lives do need to set the boundaries. That's I think that with that, it's on us. And I will say that this is what kids are interested in. And so, how can you bridge their interest with the activity that you want them to do? So, let's give our drama class, for example. We do a lot of, like, we'll give kids the seeds of a script or a story. We'll read a book and then ask the kids to create a play based on it using their own input. They get to decide the characters, the costumes, the names, what their characters will say, for example. We let them lead the way on that. And so if they want to bring in the characters from their favorite YouTube or from their favorite video game and let them bring that in as a way to sort of bridge the gap between what their interests are and what we want them to try in the creative world, that can sometimes bridge the gap with that. So that's like a really easy give. We have a great team of staff members who will get to know what the kids' interests are and then bring them into the activity. So whether that's making like Minecraft yoga poses or letting them take their favorite character from a video game and make that the centerpiece of their art that they're doing, like meet the kids where they are, and that can
mm,
really like bridge the gap on that.
mm. How do we apply that? Like, how can parents take that into the house when there's this power struggle?
Yeah. I think is it's a challenge. Let's just start there. That, like, no matter what we can do in our
Yeah,
program, like, as the parent in the house, we have our other, we have other things going on too, and so sometimes
yeah.
it's like, I will say that for the best advice I can give on that front is to communicate in advance what the
Mm,
expectations are going to be to the family. And
mm,
so if you get to the point where you're like, we've been on screens all day long, get
yeah.
off now. Like, that's not going to work for anybody. In our
Mhm,
house, we didn't call them visual schedules, but like we made visual schedules for lots of things. We would have a team meeting at the beginning of a weekend. Like, let's say it was the weekend that we had a lot of open space, and so there's a lot
mm,
of possibility, but also that is probably going to mean a lot of screen time as like
mm,
the default setting. And
mm,
so, giving a chance to say, okay, what does everybody want to accomplish this weekend, whether that's
mm,
mostly parent led or mostly kid led, depending on what the needs of the weekend are. But I think communicating to the kids in advance that, screen time is going to be, even writing it out, like, this is going to be flexible time. And between noon and 4 today, I'm not sure what we're gonna do, it's still a question mark, but during that time, we're gonna do something that isn't on screens, and so kids kinda have that more than a 5-minute notice to end their video game. Um, so I guess that's what I would say is really any change that you wanna make with kids, communicating that upfront. Whenever you can make it visual, make it visual. That, to me, that's a really big piece of for whether your children are typically developing or neurodiverse, like getting it written out is really super huge. So, yeah.
mhm, mhm. I think
But it's
that's
hard.
yeah, no, no, but I think that's really helpful. Make it more of sort of I mean, a family led and kid empowering
Mhm.
experience, and not just leaving them feeling like things are constantly being taken away from them.
Right.
Um, how about bedtime and
Mm.
sleep, right? You knew
Yeah.
one way or the other, we'll work that in. So one of the
Yeah.
things that I recommend is, having a bedtime routine, and that routine should not change. I mean, that routine still needs to be in place even if you have older children, right?
Mhm.
So, if you have younger kids, there's a little bit more, you have a little bit more control. You could read them a book and talk about and tell a story, sing a song,
Mhm.
and whatever, go to bed.
Mhm.
But now you have that, like a child that's maybe school age, who's a little bit older,
Mhm.
doesn't want you to sing them a song. How do you bring this creative art
Yeah.
experience into the bedtime routine, and why would that be beneficial? Because I would
Yeah.
love to be able to swap that with extra TV time or iPad
Right.
time, because all those things are very stimulating and may not necessarily promote good sleep.
Totally. Well, I will say that, the creativity is like exercise for the mind, and so the
Mm,
same way that when we allow our body to move during the day, we're
mm,
going to get out that latent energy, we're going to be able to settle down. Our mind needs that free creative space to get its energy out. Otherwise,
mm,
we're spinning at nighttime, And so
mm,
kids, even though they might not be able to verbalize, as I don't need to tell you this, you're the expert in this, but they have internal dialogue or monologue at night in their own heads. And so I do find that, giving kids a chance to get creative during the day, and maybe it isn't so much directly before bedtime, because you have to know your kid. Some kids get more activated by getting
mm.
creative at nighttime. However, giving your mind a chance to be creative during the day or as nighttime is approaching kind of gets that last energy out of it's satisfying, it's satiating if you allow kids to really do it in their way. And I will say that that is a key part, in my opinion, is not deciding, oh, my child is going to color a picture of their dream that they want to have before bed. That might work for some kids, but for some kids, they might want to do some other thing. They may need a more sensory creative experience in order to get all of their needs met. And so really thinking about your child, involving them in that decision, maybe go to an arts and crafts store and let them pick out, a settle down creative arts activity, something like that, something special that feels special. Yeah. That could be, but really let them have input into it. Cause of course, anytime with any age kid, if they have some buy-in in it, they're going to be more invested. And then the other thing I will say is that if you do want it to be part of the bedtime routine, creativity, arts, anything what you're doing with your hands in that way that's allowing some expression can be a really beautiful time for connection between the parent and the child. And so, yeah, your kid might be not into wanting a bedtime song anymore, or, they're old enough, they're into reading their chapter book before they're going to bed at night. They don't necessarily want you to read with them. Another time before that, finding a time to get creative together, whether it is working on a project together or even just side by side. That means you have to put your phone down as well, which is
Mm.
the challenge as well. But that that can be regulating. The nervous systems can regulate together to be creative. So you kind of get this double like connection piece with the parent and the child, and then also your mind has an opportunity to like do its thing creatively, and that can help to settle into a bedtime routine.
Wow, I love that. I love the idea of incorporating it in a way that it becomes a bonding experience with the parents. Um, and I really think this is really good, because sometimes some of the kids I work with, especially teenagers, when you tell them, well, we want to cut back on device time, and it's not yet bedtime. So especially the older children, it might not yet be bedtime. So having this tool to say, well, you could pick on this activity. And I think one thing that you said is, as long as it's not something activating where you're now like, no, I need to finish this incredible mosaic. I don't know what it is. And
Yeah.
now you don't want to go to sleep. But I think that is really, really helpful. And could you maybe, just in terms of like, what are some practical ideas? Like, if people are like, yeah, I want to give my, I want to give voice to this creative part of me,
Mhm.
and I want to use that as a tool. Because again, they come and they're like, I don't know what to do. If you take my phone away, I literally don't know what to do.
Yeah,
Um,
literally, yeah.
I know, right? So what are some examples of things they could do?
Yeah. So I would say if we're looking at it from like a wanting to settle down, we're taking the device away. I would I'll put an asterisk in here, which I don't know if this is exactly what you're asking me, but I will say that as a parent of teens, you know, I look very closely at what are the parts of the day when they are actually connecting with their friends through their device. And so I think that there is a bit of a compromise that sometimes does have to happen. So I'm going to put an asterisk on to say that I know that during my kids' prime game time with their friends, where it's like this is the end of their day and this is how they are settling down to, play a basketball game on video games with their headset with their friends. That would not be the time that I would
Mhm.
recommend ripping it away from them because
Mhm.
then they're losing that. So that's my asterisk.
Yeah.
However, a little bit younger kids where you do have more just there's less of that going on. I would think and again, you've got to know your kid, but there are beautiful stickers that you can get that kids could make mosaics of. That's a
Mhm.
simple there is no end, there is no beginning. They can make a collage of that. Or if your kid is somebody who does need a little bit more sensory input, doing something with like an air dry clay that they could build out, over time. They make this really cool air dry clay that it doesn't have that slipperiness to it, but it's very vibrant colors, and they could create a world of their favorite whatever it is. They could make something, and it's something that could just stay, and you can come back to it later to build on. If you do have a kid who really is going to need to finish things, then doing something more open-ended like that, where they
Mhm.
can build on it over time could be really great.
Mhm.
Um, and music is a form of creativity too. And so it could be that you take some time to like do a little song session with your kids to sing along to their favorite things, or maybe sing while you draw, or, you know, doing things like sometimes what we'll do. Oh, this is a fun one. That we talk about sometimes in our program about how like senses are connected. And
Mhm.
so we can listen to some music and then take crayons and draw what we're hearing. Like, so pick the colors that remind you of the sounds that you're hearing. And then also, drew the designs. And so if it's loud, they could push harder and do maybe reds and that kind of thing. And so that's just more of it's a bit of a mindfulness practice, but it's
Mhm.
also a creative expression. And then if
Mhm.
your child is someone who might want to turn that into something, turn the music off and look at what you've drawn and see if you can put faces on it and turn it into something, just activating that imagination piece, but in a way that brings them in instead of like out to video games as
Yeah.
just one fun idea. Really, it's endless. I could keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I think that's such a great way to again to kind of wind down from the very busy day, to kind of detach from,
Mhm,
the constantly plugged in tech
mhm,
world to something that then just really makes you feel happy.
mhm.
And I think that's a great note to really start to wind down. So where can people find you? How do we learn more about the work you do?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Well, and also thank you so much for having me. This is one of my very favorite topics, so I appreciate the conversation. You can reach me on Instagram. My handle is Jamie Gale LLC, and I also am the host of the In It for Youth podcast, where we talk to all different people working to improve youth well-being. And so you can find that on any podcast platform. It's In It for Youth. If you want to read about my camp that we have, our after school, we're in Wisconsin, so that's where we'll find us, but you can see it at creativesoulcamp.com. So I'd love to bounce ideas off of people. I love to connect with other people doing great work in this field, and so be in touch anytime.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thanks for coming and really sharing this. I mean, this again is helping to give folks just ideas of what to do around that bedtime. And I think that is so important because really we want to set folks up for success, and we want things to kind of wind down at the end of the day so that children can sleep better, parents can sleep better. And so it's really awesome to have you share this and really to help folks know that what, there's a wealth of ideas. So you guys heard it. I have JB's website on here as well, and I know she's on IG. And also, if you're here and you are that mom who has a child, or you are that mom yourself who is struggling with sleep. You've done all the things. You now have the routine. You've drawn. You've done. You've done creative arts. You've done the sleep hygiene thing, and you're still either so exhausted when you wake up, or you're having a hard time with sleep. This is really where we come in at the Restful Sleep Please. So we get to the root cause, and we meet you where you are. So services we provide include services for children, but we also help young adults, and we also help their parents sleep better to thrive. So we would love to be a part of your journey. And the best place to find that would be right on our website. That's the restfulsleepplace.com. Schedule an appointment. We would love to talk about how we could get you from tired, drained, and exhausted to really thriving and living with vitality. And it was really, really nice talking to you, Jamie. Really nice being here again tonight or today, whenever you're listening to this, whether it's on the replay or whatever. And until next time, I hope you all rest well.